This isn't my code either, by the way. You're in for a little spooky treat. Did anybody come here to like see code or like learn about haunted shit? Both? Or then you're in the right room, trust me. All right, I'm gonna let that go. So before I start, I wanted to show this. If you want to go back and rewatch this talk, I'm recording it right now. You can scan this QR code. The slides are available, the resources for this talk are available, and once the talk is edited, once I get back home, I'll edit it, put it up, and then you can check that out. You can enter to win a prize when the video drops. So I'll leave that up there for a couple seconds. I also have this available at the end of the talk too. So if you skip out and miss scanning that QR code, it'll be available. I'll be here most of the day. So if you need to scan it again, just come and find me. I'm at the TuxCare booth where all the other booths are at. Everybody good with this? Sweet, cool. Huge shout out to Voxxed Days Amsterdam. This is my first Voxxed Days. Actually first time in Amsterdam, so I'm super, super stoked to be here. So huge shout out to them, to everybody that makes this event what it is. This is the official hashtag for the event, VDAMS26. So if you're on Twitter, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, some of you might still be on Mastodon, I don't know. But if you are tweeting or posting on LinkedIn, whatever the case may be, throwing this hashtag on there would be great. It's good for the organizers to see the engagement of the community and just to keep up with what's going on. If you could also throw this one on there too, this is more or less for me and the developer community. I live and breathe the developer community. That's why I'm here. I'm here to help teach and mentor and also learn from everybody that's here. And I hold developer community extremely close to my heart. So this is a great way for not just myself, but other developers in the community to track the engagement of what's going on around the world, see where people are at, what they're working on, different stuff like that. So if you are on any type of social media, hashtag developer community would be super awesome as well. That's me. My name is Chris DeMars. I am from Michigan, stateside, senior developer advocate at TuxCare. Is anybody familiar with TuxCare? Cool, some of you, sweet. So TuxCare, one of the things that we do, we offer endless lifecycle support for older end-of-life solutions, frameworks, libraries. So if you're running older versions of Angular, AngularJS, Java Spring, we patch those dependencies that are no longer supported by vendors or community, and you bring those in and we keep you patched. So it's pretty sweet. If you want to know more about that, hit the TuxCare booth. We can tell you all about it. You could catch me on Twitter at Salt and Burnham. Hopefully you're still on Twitter. It'll never be X. It will always be Twitter. You can also catch me on Blue Sky at chrisdemars.net. A little bit about me. I'm a paranormal enthusiast. Hopefully you're in this room to hear some paranormal stuff. Competitive bass angler, so I do get in a boat and fish for money. And I also play competitive paintball. And I'm pretty sure Amsterdam has a team that I've seen play at World Cup, actually. So that's pretty sweet. So that's just a little bit about me. Thank you for coming to the talk. I really appreciate it. There's other talks happening at this event, but you decided to kick it with me for 45 minutes, so I really, really do appreciate that. The title of the talk, Possessed by Packages, is your JavaScript haunted? Now, I have a little bit of a caveat for you. If you do work in the front-end space, I'm a front-end developer. I'm a senior developer advocate for front-end ecosystems at TuxCare. All JavaScript is haunted. Let's be real. Does anybody work in JavaScript right now? Sweet. That's awesome. How many Java back-end developers? Cool. So a good mix. That's awesome. I'd love to see that. All JavaScript is haunted. It's not a lie, right? There was a specific person that created this framework, this library that we use called JavaScript. They created it in 10 days, and we still have bugs in the core functionality today because of that. It is haunted. That's just the way it's going to be. You're not going to be able to get rid of it. So I want to run through the agenda real quick. I love speaking on this big-ass screen. This is sweet. First things first, we're going to talk about the haunting, so kind of what to look out for. The signs, so even deeper, right? The haunting, the signs. And then we're going to talk about the exorcism, so how to mitigate these issues or ways to get rid and remediate the issues that you're facing. I added this slide in here just because it's fun, for me at least. Is anybody fans of Ed and Lorraine Warren or the Conjuring series or Annabelle? A couple hands? You can put your hands up, nerds. It's okay, we're all friends here. Put your hands up if you love the Conjuring series. There we go. Hiya, there we go. That's what I love to see. So I kind of relate supply chain and front-end security and security in general to the 4 levels of a possession. So you have infestation, so the code gets into your system, right? Then you have obsession. You're sitting there, you're fumbling through stuff, you're looking at CVEs, you're obsessing over this stuff. Then you have oppression, so it's beating you down, right? You can't figure this stuff out, and it's really getting to you. And then you have your 4th level of possession, is the actual possession. That's when you turn into a cybersecurity researcher, a cybersecurity developer, and you get rid of everything else, and that's all you focus on, is security. You're finally possessed by it. So let's look at this for a second. Think about this for a minute. NPM is huge, right? It is. It is a huge registry. Millions of packages, millions of downloads every single week. Now look at your node modules, right? The vastness that the node modules is into the inky blackness of the universe. It's like an endless forest. It just keeps going and going and going, and that shit can be scary. I know most of you have seen this before, right? This image, the heaviest objects in the universe, right? You have a sun, the sun is, it's okay. You have a neutron star, you have a black hole, and then your node modules just keeps going and going and going, and that shit doesn't stop. Now, if I told you that you could list out your dependencies in your terminal, is everybody still working the terminal? Like everybody like playing around in the terminal? Sweet, awesome, I love that. Is anybody using Warp? What about Ghosty? iTerm? iTerm 2? Is anybody using subsystem, Windows subsystem for Linux? All right, sweet, that's awesome, cool. Well, there is a way you can check your dependencies in your terminal. And the way you do that is by running npm ls. Now, npm ls will list out your dependencies. This is the integrated terminal inside VS Code. And I'm gonna run npm ls. This is on an Angular project. Sweet, it's gonna list out my dependencies. I got a bunch of Angular core stuff here, Angular 20, a couple other stuff, Jasmine, Karma, etc. Now, if I were to ask you, are you able to, or would you want to, list all your dependencies in your project? What would you say? Would you do it? Would you want to do it? You wouldn't want to. Yeah, you might have to. Why wouldn't you want to do it? Let's flip the script. Why wouldn't you want to list all your dependencies that you have in your project? And there's not a wrong answer. Anybody can answer.
Too confronting.
Okay, what else?
Too much.
Too much, maybe an overload of the buffer in the terminal, right? You could have 20 packages, you could have 500, you could have 5,000, you could have, the list goes on and on and on, right? But you can do it. You can run npm ls-all in your terminal, and you can list out all the dependencies within your project. Same project, Angular project, integrated terminal inside VS Code, npm ls-all. There we go, we listed it out, sweet. But it scrolls, and it scrolls. I promise it stops. This is the time where I tell a joke. Does anybody have a good joke they want to tell? I have one. What is a spider's favorite job?
Calling the web.
You're on the right track. A web developer. Boom, right? Where's my drums at? Front row, do I got drums? All right, that was good enough. You get an A for effort on that one. And there we go. That listed out all the dependencies within our project. You can do it, but it takes time. There's a lot there. The reason I am bringing all this up is because it all goes back to supply chain security. Now, this isn't my code, so don't judge me. But it's not just your code when we're talking about supply chain security. We're talking about everything that you rely on. The further down the chain you go, the more vulnerability that you accept, right? It's like, does anybody play Jenga? Or has played Jenga, right? So you know a little bit of movement, right? Or something's just on the edge a little bit, and then the whole thing comes crashing down. You can sort of think of software supply chain just like that. So let's talk about the haunting for a second. Is anybody familiar with this term? Excuse me, typo squatting? Everybody that is not familiar, raise your hand. Awesome, we're gonna learn. We are gonna learn. So what typo squatting is, it's when an attacker registers a package that is off by a letter or has too many letters. There's two ways that you see this in the wild. The first way is with domain registrations. How many of you have typed guthub.com in your address bar? If you're not raising your hand, you're a liar. Because the I and the U are right next to each other, and I know all of you are expert typers, you're not finger typers, and you're not looking at the keyboard, right? Right. Well, that's one way of typo squatting, is an attacker, a malicious attacker will purchase a domain that it looks like or is almost the same as something else that's popular out there. They'll register it, they'll pretty much clone the existing site, right? So they'll make it look like github.com. The functionality will be the same, etc. But underneath, it's malicious. There's malicious attacks that could happen, right? And you're not paying attention. I'm pretty sure though, does anybody work at GitHub in here? Cool. You do? No shit?
GitHub.
You do?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Does GitHub own guthub.com? Because I always say like, oh, they probably own guthub.com. Do they? You don't know? That's okay. We'll just say they possibly, probably, allegedly, maybe own guthub.com. There's another way that this happens. It's with packages. Not just NPM, any kind of package, right? That a letter or number, or there's too many letters, could be off. You're installing it, and you don't know that you're installing it, and we have bad things that can happen. So how does that happen? How does one install things like this? It doesn't matter if you're a senior developer, a junior developer, a mid-level developer, anybody that's in the code, in the terminal, it doesn't matter. You can do these things. And one way of doing it is hitting a letter twice and not paying attention, right? Fat fingering something like guthub.com. That's a way to do it. And you unintentionally install these packages. Now, a famous one is the cross-env package. So this is a noteworthy case of typo squatting. The attacker used a similar name to the popular package cross-env. They just got rid of the dash in between. They even wrapped it in the same exact functionality as the original legit package. It looked exactly the same as the original module. It was working as expected. In the back end, it captured environment variables and sent them to an attacker-controlled remote server elsewhere. If you're not paying attention, stuff like this can happen. Everybody just heard about the Axios attack yesterday, right? That's huge. That blew up the internet. These are things that we need to be cognizant of. So here's another one, dependency confusion. Is everybody familiar with the term dependency confusion? No? Cool. If you are, awesome. So dependency confusion is when an organization uses both a private or an internal registry and also a public one, right? There's a public one. An attacker publishes a public package with the same name as the private one, but a higher version number. And if you don't have your CI/CD locked down, your npm-rc file configured, you can get into a lot of issues. So nearly 49% of organizations are exposed to risks of a dependency confusion attack. That's a lot, 49%. In the grand scheme of things, when we think about the web being at the top of the chain, right? Most every business out there has a website. I would assume, from enterprise to startup to a mom and pop shop, right? Probably even yourself. I know I have my own blog, and I get dependabot emails all the time saying my stuff is not secure. It is what it is. It needs to be fixed. But nearly 49% of those organizations are exposed to a risk of dependency confusion attack. That just makes me think of this meme right here. Life is like an NPM install. You never know what you're going to get. And it's true. You don't know what you're going to get when you're installing stuff. That's where transitive dependencies come in. You have direct and transitive. Transitive are where most of your cybersecurity attacks stem from, is your transitive dependencies, the stuff that came along for the ride when you installed a direct dependency. A perfect example, let's say you install Next. Next comes with React, React DOM, those are direct dependencies, but if you were to go in your node modules, look at your Next package, you go within that, look at RxJS, no, not RxJS, you'll see TSLib or RxJS, one of the two, and that came along for the ride. You didn't intentionally install that, but you might be hit with an issue later down the line because of a vulnerability within that. I'm not saying they're vulnerable or anything like that, just an example. So the way it sort of works is like this. You have your CI/CD platform, doesn't matter what it is, npm install, it runs npm install, and then instead of going to the private registry, it's going to choose the package in the public registry because the public registry has a higher version number. And this is with CI/CD not being configured and npm-rc files not being configured. It's going to automatically think, oh, hey, this package has a higher version number, so that must be the latest version, right? But at the end of the day, that's the malicious package. Here's a little demo. This is just a React Vite project. I pull in 2 different packages, and I'm using Verdaccio to kind of simulate the private registry and a public registry in NPM. If you want to play around with stuff like this, it's best to use a tool like Verdaccio or a registry tool. That way you're not publishing anything to NPM. So there's a scope package that's a legit package, so it just adds a button. It's cool, it's a demo button, sweet. But you remove that, and a legit package is also installed. Like I said, now it's gonna throw that alert, it's gonna inverse all the CSS, and it's gonna change the whole entire look of the package. Because this was installed and it was overwritten by the other one, and the version number was higher. Like I said, npm-rc in this case, it's not split. It's using the same exact configuration. It's just that Verdaccio is 2 different, it's simulating the public registry as well as the private registry. So one thing you need to do is scope your packages, right? When an organization uses both, the scope package is the best way to go, especially internally. And make sure that your npm-rc file and your CI/CD platform is configured properly, so anytime that something is installed, automatically that scope package is going to be installed, and NPM isn't going to look elsewhere. So this is how it looks. You have the @ symbol, scope, or whatever your organization name is, right? / whatever your awesome package is. You see this a lot. Well, you saw it with Angular. You see this with design systems, big projects where you have a scoped piece to it as well as the package. You always want to install, if you can, install the scoped version. Is everybody familiar with a backdoor and what backdoors are? Cool. So a backdoor is, it's literally an entrance on the backside, quote unquote, of a piece of software that you can enter if you can bypass security, right? So there's a short video I wanna play here. One of my favorite hacker movies out there. If you know what it is, We Can Be Friends. But this is a great explanation of what backdoors are.
Theater-wide biotoxic and chemical warfare. This didn't come from Protovision.
You bet it didn't. Ask him where it did come from, Jim. Go ahead, ask him.
I told you already.
Looks military to me. Definitely military. Probably classified, too.
Yeah, but if it's military, why does it have games like checkers and backgammon?
Maybe because those are games that teach basic strategy.
Jim, how do I get into that system? I want to play those games.
You're not supposed to see any of that stuff. That system probably contains a new data encryption algorithm. You'll never get in there.
Hey, I don't believe that any system is totally secure. I bet you Jim could get in.
Yeah, I bet you could.
I bet you he could.
Well, you'll never get in through the frontline security, but you might look for a back door.
I can't believe it, Jim. That girl standing over there listening and you're talking about our back doors?
Mr. Potato Head. Mr. Potato Head, back doors are not secrets.
Yeah, but Jim, you're giving away all our best tricks.
They're not tricks.
What's backdoor?
Well, whenever I design a system, I always put in a simple password that only I know about. That way, whenever I want to get back in, I can bypass whatever security they've added on. That's basically what it is.
Yeah?
Okay, you really want to get in, find out as much as you can about the guy who designed the system.
Does anybody ever know what movie that is? War Games. Awesome. I mean, it's only fitting to play a movie since we are in a movie theater, right? And that is the best explanation of what a backdoor is that I can think of. But with backdoors come problems, right? And these are things that can be installed, things that can be left in a backdoor if an attacker has access to one. They can inject it with malware, right off the rip. They can do phishing attacks with it. And then they can implement unpatched software within that as well. These are all things that we want to make sure that we're avoiding. So a brief history of backdoors. This is a little bit of a timeline. So 1960s, 1970s, they were considered trap doors, right? They were originally created by developers for legitimate maintenance, troubleshooting, and bypassing authentication during system development. Then you move into the 1980s. That's the transition to where the malicious attacks started with the Morris worm. We actually have a comic at our booth. We actually have 3 comics at our booth. The first edition is all about the Morris worm. All the comics are about actual cybersecurity attacks. So if you head over to the booth, you can grab one of those. It's pretty sweet. In the 90s, the government started getting involved, right? So government involvement increases. The NSA's Clipper chip project attempted to embed backdoors into telecommunications for surveillance. That didn't work. You get into the 2000s to 2010, cyber criminals begin using Trojan horses for remote access. And then you have the modern day backdoor where they're starting to kind of evolve into IoT and cloud. There's a handful of issues that can arise from backdoor attacks, right? Data and privacy loss, so persistent data exfiltration. Attackers, they can continuously leak intellectual property. You have operational damage. That's the one thing you don't want. You don't want operational damage whatsoever. And I mean, you really don't want any of this stuff. But shutting down critical applications, right? There's a reason, there's a hashtag called HugOps. It's because of operational damage that these teams have to kind of go in and fix. They can change configurations, system crashes, all types of stuff. Then you have financial damage, direct cost, lost revenue. That's stuff we don't want. I don't know about anybody in here, but I've gotten multiple letters from companies saying, oh, there was a data breach and you might be entitled for money from a lawsuit, right? The company's going to lose money. And then you have system integrity, unauthorized modifications, attackers disabling firewalls, reconfiguring security settings to ensure that they can never be locked out again. They can always gain access. And then you have legal risks, right? All of the legal risks that come along with this. Company shutdown, bankruptcy, paying out money in lawsuits, right? These are all things an organization, a CEO, a CIO, all the C-level, all the way to the bottom, nobody wants to deal with this. So making sure that your stuff is secure is a way to kind of sidestep those problems. Then we have symptoms. We have the symptoms of these things. Stuff on your machine going haywire. Has anybody ever had stuff like this happen? I have. Maybe on like older systems. But you could sort of think of it like this GIF right here from Poltergeist. The attackers are there, right? Network anomalies, file system changes, cryptocurrency mining, post-install scripts, which we're going to talk about, unexpected, unaudited changes in your dependency lock file that you didn't put there, right? Stuff that was installed in your package lock, that is just showing up out of nowhere. There's a pretty cool tool out there that kind of maps all of this stuff, especially the inbound, outbound connections. It's called Little Snitch. It's pretty sweet. I think there is like a 14-day free trial that you can install. But you can see all the different connections that are coming in and out wherever your machine is. I don't know why mine was in the middle of the Atlantic during this, because I was not there at the time of this little demo that I was running. But it shows you all the different inbound and outbound connections, what was sent, what was received. It's pretty cool. And this is just with the free version of this tool. So if you download Little Snitch, that can kind of help you monitor these inbound and outbound network connections and requests. So let's talk about how to fix these problems. Ways to get ahead, ways to stay one step ahead of these issues, and even kind of maybe take 2 steps back so you can move forward. NPM audit and beyond, as well as Yarn audit as well. But NPM audit is a great tool to use inside your project, right? NPM audit will tell you not the CVEs, the common vulnerability and exposures, but it will tell you how many security vulnerabilities you have within your application, within your project. It'll tell you the criticality level, versions, stuff like that. All really great information to use. You can also do it with Yarn, so you can run a Yarn audit and you can get that same information. But you can move past using NPM and Yarn. Excuse me. It's 3 levels. So at the base layer, we have the people level, right? It represents the human ritual of doing things the right way, showing that security starts with the developer first and then moves forward. The developer's doing the things that they're supposed to be doing, pinning their versions, committing lock files, being skeptical, right? The second layer is automation. Automated scanning and monitoring of your project. Always being vigilant and constantly worrying about what's going on. Not so much worrying, but just being up ahead of the game. Moving from the machine or the human effort at the people level to the machine effort, using tools like Sneak or Dependabot, right? These SCA, software composition analysis tools, to automate these processes. And then you have the last one, which is trust, and all of these build on top of each other. The highest level of the exorcism. You're moving beyond just looking for bad things and transitioning to a system where you allow the code that has a cryptographic birth certificate, using Sigstore or whatever, and trusting these resources. So the first level, don't use carets or tildes, right? Don't do that. You want to make sure that you're pinning your dependencies. And make sure that you're also committing your lock file. The reason you want to pin your dependencies and commit your lock file is, let's say that one person on your team installs a project or a package, another person installs another package. Those 2 versions are different. Now you're going to have different vulnerabilities attached to those. Everything's going to kind of fall together. So pinning your dependencies, at least keeping them at a secure level. Committing your lock file. The reason you want to commit your lock file is that so you have a standard across the team. Everybody's installing the same exact thing. No worries. It's almost like a paper trail at the end of the day. But you can also think about it as a time machine. So you can go back in time and see what was installed, what wasn't installed, what versions, etc. Scope it. Make sure that you're scoping your packages if you're building anything that's internal, right? Using this system, the @ symbol, your organization name, /, and whatever your awesome package is. Another thing too is to be wary of post-install scripts. Now this is a scary thing to think about if you're a developer. The way this looks in the package JSON, post-install, node, and it's going to open up or install the post-install JS. So if you're to open this up, and A, you didn't put it there, for one, B, it's a lot of code you don't understand, you have to really be wary about this. You do have 2 options though. And those 2 options to kind of get rid and remediate post and pre-install, and we'll talk about that, is using PNPM, and PNPM is automatically just going to ignore pre and post install scripts, or you can just ignore the scripts. So there's 3 different ways you can do that. You have npm install, whatever the package name is, and then put the --ignore scripts on it. You can use ignore -scripts equals true. And then you can use npm config set ignore scripts to true. And the way this breaks down, that first one, the npm install package name ignore scripts, that's the command line level, right? So when you're just installing stuff off the rip. The ignore scripts true, that's at the npm rc level, right? So you can do it in your npm rc config. And then this last one is the global config level, at the user level, right? So you can do it these 3 different ways. Now I was talking about post and pre-install scripts, and the differences between those are a pre-install script, what that's going to do is it's going to look at a package, look at a project. It's smart enough to determine the level of security within that. Excuse me. So let's say you're a bank, let's say an academic website, something that's high up on the chain. It's going to look at that, it's going to analyze that project, and if it thinks that it can't break through the security, it's going to ping the server of the attacker or whatever, and it's going to say, hey, listen, we're going to lay low until that door is unlocked, so just chill out. Well, once the guard is down, that door unlocks, then a post-install script is installed. Before you even open your code editor or your IDE, you are already in trouble because of that post-install script. So you want to make sure that you're ignoring those, because that can come along with a lot of problems and a lot of headache moving forward. Another cool tool that you can use is Can I Ignore Scripts? You can run this in your terminal for security risks, so you can check that out. You can Google that. I talked a little bit about this briefly during the levels of security, and we're talking about software composition analysis, or SCA tooling, right? It's application methodology for managing open source components. Development teams can quickly track and analyze any open source component brought to a project. There's a handful of different tools out there. I was talking about Dependabot. How many get Dependabot emails every day? It gets annoying, doesn't it? Maybe not every day, every other day. So this is just one of my packages, one of my projects, and it's pretty sweet. It will tell you the impact, it tells you the packages, it tells you the version numbers, the dependencies, the dev dependencies, the transitive dependencies that were introduced. So there's a lot of really, really good information here. I don't know how many people kind of brush off Dependabot like I do, but if you're using GitHub, it's free. So look into it and see what's what. You might be able to find some cool information in there. Another tool is by my friends over at Snyk. This is a free tool that you can use. This will kind of give you a rundown of all the issues within your project as well. In this one, I imported, I have a demo for a talk I do on close encounters of the data kind, where it's all about UFOs and UAPs. And I import that into Snyk. I open up the package JSON file and I run this check, and it gives me tons of information. It gives me priority scores, levels, direct issues, transitive issues, a bunch of awesome information. Is anybody currently using Snyk right now for anything? Cool, you like it? Yeah, you like it? It's pretty sweet. Snyk is a great company. They have great tooling. Their DevRel team, everybody that is there is really, really awesome. So if you get a chance, check out Snyk and their tooling that they have. So moving on to level 2 in security policies. You have to have a security policy within your organization, within your team. Who decides that security policy? Is it your team that decides that security policy? Maybe. Is it your architecture team that decides that security policy? Maybe. Is it your security team that comes up with that security policy? Maybe. But all of those people, all of those teams, they can come up with kind of a standard. In GitHub, you can do this, which is really, really great. You can lock down merges. You can lock down branches and protect those, right? You can do all these things. I've had to do them when I've worked on teams. Locking things down to 2 code reviews, so nothing will get merged. A PR, nothing will happen unless 2 reviews are done, depending on who you choose to do those reviews. You can put branches down at the different level of people, right? So levels in the team. It's really, really cool what you can do inside GitHub nowadays to protect and stay secure and be cognizant of what is inside your project. There's also processing tools that you can use with Node or eBPF. Some of the processing tools I kind of talked about, Snyk, NPM Audit. There's one out there called Socket. You have behavioral analysis tools, Package Inferno, Lava Moat, Trufflehog, Git Leaks, and then you have Sigstore and SLSA, Salsa, which brings me into my next one. And the thing to know about eBPF is that it's Linux kernel-based, so it's not actually like rewriting or writing JavaScript or anything like that, but it's going to kind of help and tell you what's been tampered with in that supply chain. Is everybody familiar with salsa? A little bit? Cool. So salsa, it's just supply chain levels for software artifacts. At the end of the day, it's a framework, it's a checklist. It's just standards and controls to help secure packages and infrastructure. Like, you don't write salsa. You don't install salsa, right? These are just, it's just a checklist and a framework to do these things moving forward. There's a few different levels to it. There's actually 3 levels. I put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 levels. I can count, I promise. The beginning one is level 0. And I like to say that that's where you are totally haunted, right? That's your baseline. There's no security whatsoever. Your packages are already compromised. And then you have your provenance level, so creating a digital paper trail showing exactly how the package was built. GitHub Actions can do that. Then you have your 3rd level, which is validation, using a hosted build service to prevent authorized changes during that process. You have your hardening level, isolating the build environment. And then the last one, which is your North Star, fortified. Now, this isn't technically the last level of salsa, but this is the level that you want to get to, right? You want to be locked down 100%, but with most North Stars, you can't get to it, right? You can't achieve it. I've done a lot of talks on web accessibility. Nothing will ever be 100% accessible. I personally don't believe anything will be 100% secure, because there's always going to be new threats. There's always going to be a new malicious attacker out there. We just have to be cognizant of what's going on. We have to stay ahead of the game. Level 3 is team policy. Enforce it. Stop cutting corners. This is where we get into the issue, and if you throw it back to the UX umbrella, the user experience, the 3 things that only matter when shit hits the fan is accessibility, performance, and security. Think about that. At the end of the day, you, myself, we are ambassadors to the world by what we're building and what we're shipping. Think about that. It all falls under the UX umbrella. Someone can't use our website, someone can't use our application, they can't use our software because we weren't baking in accessibility from the beginning. So now we have a lawsuit on our hands. Someone can't use our application, our website, our software because the network connection went out, we didn't cache any of our resources. Performance is down. And then security. Someone attacked our website, our application, our software, because we weren't cognizant of it from the beginning until shit hits the fan. All too many times we take for granted what we're doing as developers and software architects or whatever role that you play in this world of web and software. We take it for granted. All we are concerned about is 2-week Jira sprints or story points or a paycheck, right? But the code that we are shipping that's accessible, performant, and secure could save someone's life in a hospital. The code that we are shipping that is accessible, performant, and secure could help a child read. These are things we need to think about when we're behind our screen and our fingers are on the keyboard, if you use a keyboard. With that, I got 5 minutes. I'll give you back 5 minutes. I have some takeaways from this, and hopefully you take these things away with you. Assume nothing. We are in the business of web and software. Assume nothing. Endor Labs has a great quote. Risk is risk. That is a great quote when it comes to software, supply chain security, and pretty much anything that we're doing on the web, right? When we're building out stuff. Pin your versions. Keep them consistent. commit your lock files, keep the project consistent across your team. If you can, and you're building stuff internally, scope your private packages, make sure that you are configuring CI/CD properly, make sure that your npm-rc file is configured properly, and then implement SCA tooling, software composition analysis. You get Dependabot out of the box for free with GitHub. You can use Sneak. There's tools out there. You have to put the effort in. I'm going to leave you with this quote, and hopefully you all know where it comes from. Sometimes shit happens, someone has to deal with it, and who you going to call? Ghostbusters! I love that y'all, like most of you knew that. I did this at an event one time, and one person was like, Ghostbusters. I'm like, you guys aren't nerds. Here's the show notes again. If you didn't get a chance to take a picture of that, I'll leave it up for like 5 seconds, and I'm going to give it a countdown. So hopefully you have your phone on you. We all have our phones on us. We're so quick with it. 5, 4, 3. I heard some. Hold on. 2, 1.5. I used to go like 2, 2.5, and I'm like, that goes back up. I got to go down. 1.5. 1. Awesome. I'm doing 3 talks tomorrow, by the way. Hopefully I see you all there. 2 keynotes in the morning, another talk at the late morning. But that is me. That's my time. Thank you for being here. Yeah, have a great Voxxed Days.